General Motors has had what we thought was a really good quarter in the third quarter of this year. We thought, General Motors is doing really well, but they they have been hit pretty hard. In fact, their net income tumbled by 57% in the quarter to 1.3 billion because of costs to do with its electric vehicle manufacturing plans that kind of haven't gone the way General Motors had hoped. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. I'm Sam Evans. You're watching the Electric Viking. Guys, I use PowerShop for my electricity to charge my EV for free between 12 and 2 o'clock during the day. I'll put a link in the description. If you sign up with them, you get a $170 discount to sign up. Also, my solar and batteries. I've got a 50 kilowatt hour battery here, and I've got a big solar array. So I pay $0 for electricity. That's including charging my electric car. Resync Solar is the company that I used. I'll put a link to them in the description below. General Motors income, it's fallen by 57%. And this is really reflective of the entire automotive industry, isn't it? This race to the bottom. It's happening in China, and now it's happening in Europe. It's happening now in the US. Auto industry margins are shrinking to their lowest levels that we've seen, I think, ever. Now, surprisingly, after Mary Barra told shareholders of what 57% decline in profit, GM shares rose by nearly 10%. It went up. It's interesting. Adjusted earnings before interest and taxes declined by 18% to 3.4 billion in the third quarter. Revenue was flat at 48.6 billion, in spite of the fact that they sold a lot of cars. North American pre-tax earnings fell 37% to 2.5 billion. Revenue slipped 1.5% to 40.6 billion. General Motors said it would take a $1.6 billion charge against its third quarter earnings to reassess its EV capacity. I'm not exactly sure how this works, to be honest. It's sort of like $1.6 billion charge to reassess EV capacity. It's kind of a confusing statement. The elimination of the $7,500 federal tax credit that has supported sales of new EVs is one reason that near-term EV adoption will be lower than planned, said Mary Barra. And the CEO of Ford, Jim Farley, he said he believes EV sales in the US could fall by up to 50%. I don't think that will happen, though. The work, which is ongoing, resulted in a special charge in the third quarter, and we expect future charges, she said. By acting swiftly and decisively to address overcapacity, we expect to reduce EV losses in 2026 and beyond. General Motors are still making losses on the sales of their electric cars. So I've mentioned this quite a few times over the past 4 years. If automakers were making a profit on EVs, you'd be the first to know about it. They'd be making sure that you were aware. General Motors narrowed the top end of its net income guidance for 2025 to 8.3 billion from 9.5 billion, but it raised its EBIT adjusted projections to a range of 12 to 13 billion, from an earlier forecast of 10 billion to 12.5 billion. GM now expects a longer runway for its profitable internal combustion vehicles, read profitable internal combustion vehicles, as the transition to EVs slows. GM's it wants the transition to EVs to slow because of exactly what I just said. It's profitable internal combustion cars. Anyway, General Motors is investing $4 billion at 3 US assembly plants to expand output of gasoline-powered vehicles by the end of 2027. Right, and that's why the stock price went up. This includes moving production of the Chevrolet Blazer to Tennessee from Mexico in order to avoid tariffs. Anyway, $4 billion to focus on internal combustion engine cars. Interesting, isn't it? That is one strategy GM has used to offset the impact of Donald Trump's tariffs on imported vehicles and parts. And the automaker previously had said tariffs would cost it $4 to $5 billion this year before efforts to mitigate some of the effects. GM said it now expects to pay between $3.5 to $4.5 billion, assuming current rates are maintained, and offset about 35% of that cost. Trump last week extended a tariff offset equal to 3.75% of the aggregate sticker price of vehicles automakers assemble in the US through April 2030. That had been set to fall to 2.5% next year before phasing out in 2027. Similar relief will follow for US built engines, not EVs, not batteries, just US built engines. The MSRP offset program will help make US produced internal combustion vehicles more competitive over the next 5 years, and GM is very well positioned as we invest to increase our already significant domestic sourcing and manufacturing footprint, said Mary to shareholders. CFO Paul Jacobson said the automaker remains focused on its disciplined approach to inventory and it's hoping for a return to the old days of 8 to 10% margins. Therefore, like I said, GM doesn't want the EV adoption rates to increase. Otherwise, it can't hit its margins of its old days margins of 8 to 10%, which I don't think will ever return. I think it's highly unlikely. The new tariff offset gives us a little bit of easing in the tariff burden for the year. And in China, GM reported $80 million in equity income compared with the loss of $137 million a year earlier. So in China, basically General Motors are breaking even right now. Guys, as you can see, General Motors is really all in on internal combustion. Basically, they've cancelled some of their EV programs, paused them, and are investing $4 billion on internal combustion. So let's see how this all plays out. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.